Keep yourself in the loop of everything football. Listen to Alex and Jeremiah on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
Hello there, I'm Jeremiah.
I am Alex, always and forever here.
Dedicated to college and NFL football. The latest football news on and off the field. NFL draft trade rumors. We've got you covered from the NFL, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC, and everything else in between. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
Thank you for tuning in to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast, where we discuss the latest news, rumors, and games of the NFL and college football, from the latest science dishes, breakout stars, and all the news in between. As always, I'm Jeremiah.
And my name is Ben. Anthony is not here today, feeling a little under the weather. So it's just Jeremiah and I, a little baseball-esque, the two of us in here, just riding solo, talking some football. We're going to start off talking about Thursday night, a big matchup last night in the AFC West, Kansas City Chiefs and Oakland Raiders. We'll then preview the rest of the NFL week this week and all the games. And we will end the show talking about the college football award ceremony last night, as well as previewing that award that Jeremiah loves and I don't, the Heisman Trophy. Also, we have a head coach in Houston. It's not the guy we thought was going to be the head coach. A little turn of the tides there,
Well,
no pun intended.
It wasn't really. I'm not surprised by the move, but it was something that was under the radar.
Something unexpected actually broke within the last half hour, and that's Lane Kiffin's actually not the coach. So we'll be talking about that to end the show. But first, Jeremiah, we got to talk about Thursday Night Football. It was really, I kind of feel bad for Oakland. This was a Thursday night matchup going in a short week. I wish this was a Sunday night game, because honestly, this was the best game of the weekend when you look at the implications of it. You had first place up for grabs in the AFC West, Kansas City Chiefs hosting the Oakland Raiders. Thursday Night Football, the Chiefs come out on top 21-13. They score all 21 of their points in the second quarter. Huge performance by rookie Tyreek Hill, really coming on strong lately. He had a wide receiver reception touchdown as well as a punt return touchdown in the second quarter to lead Kansas City in a victory over the Raiders.
Yeah, and you getting back to the Thursday night thing here, I think they were the only West Coast team to travel like another time zone in Thursday night. I think they were the only one, which would happen to the Raiders. And I'm not trying to make an excuse for them why they lost that game, but there's lots of things that they did wrong. It was 21-3 before the Raiders came back and had that really probably their best drive of the whole game before half, but made it 10-21. And then when the second half started, the Kansas City Chiefs had two straight turnovers on two straight possessions. So Alex Smith pretty much looked like pre-hardball Alex Smith. That's what I tweeted last night, because that's what he looked like.
I mean, he didn't play that bad.
No, in those two possessions. That's what I said. In those two possessions, he kind of looked like pre-hardball Smith. After that, it was just regular Alex Smith to me. But the Raiders couldn't do anything off of those two turnovers. They had two turnovers to begin the second half. They only mustered up 3 points. They should have easily had 14 points off of those. They were both in Kansas City territory. The defense played phenomenally well last night. I don't think a lot of people were expecting this defense to play as well as it did. They had 3 turnovers. They held Kansas City scoreless for the second half. This was honestly just on the offensive scheme. I think the Chiefs realized that Derek Carr was going to be in shotgun the whole entire game, and I really do think that kind of played a part. Like, they knew what type of formation that Derek Carr or the Raiders were going to run. And to top it all off, Derek Carr threw it more than 40 times, and I understand that you want to put the game in his hands, and he's basically been your MVP this entire year, but Latavius Murray had a heck of a game yesterday. He had over 100 yards, only carried it 22 times. He should have carried it 30 times. Probably could have had an even better game, in my opinion.
Well, coming out of this game, I learned a couple of things, and honestly, I think I learned more about the Raiders than I did the Chiefs.
And And I did too.
I thought the Chiefs were going to win. I thought they would cover the spread, which is what happened. Like you mentioned, it going all the way from Oakland to Missouri on 3 days rest, one of the toughest atmospheres to play in Arrowhead Stadium against a really good team in Kansas City in a cold weather game didn't bode well. So I did think Kansas City would win the game for that reason. 2, one thing I learned about the Raiders is that they went from number 1 in the AFC to number 5. So, and the Kansas City Chiefs do have the tiebreaker in the AFC West. They do have the same record, but they beat Oakland twice. So if the Raiders can't win the division, I think this is really, really bad for them for a couple of reasons. Number 1, look at the teams they're going to probably have to go up against. You're looking at Kansas City, that's going to be cold. You're looking at New England, it's going to be cold. Possibly Baltimore or Pittsburgh, it's going to be cold there. If they maybe get to play the AFC South winner, then that's pretty good for them because they could go to Indianapolis, which is a dome, Houston, which is a dome, Tennessee, which doesn't get very cold. So that could be okay. Derek Carr, although he's only been in the league a few years, has never won a game where the temperature is lower than 40 degrees. Last night, he really struggled. 17 of 41, 117 yards, no turnovers, but no touchdowns. He still has the pinky situation that's bothering him, that's for sure. But the Raiders, not a team that, in my eyes, that can win in the cold weather. Although, last night, I felt like you mentioned, they had their opportunities. They had a chance to win the game. Defense only gives up 14 points because special teams gave up the 1 touchdown. They missed out on the opportunities with the turnovers. So they were in this game. They had a chance to win it. They probably should have won the game. They were missing their starting left guard, Kelechi Osemele, who rates out as one of the best in all of football this year. So they didn't even try to run off to the left side. Although Latavius Murray did have a good game, you mentioned, 103 and a touchdown. They didn't really try to go to the left side much. So that hurt them. It was clearly obvious. But I think you have to give the Chiefs' defense a lot of credit as well. They stopped, probably in my eyes, the MVP to his worst game of the season, maybe one of the worst games of his career.
Yeah, I think I haven't seen Derek Carr look this comfortable since his bowl game when he was at Fresno State playing against USC. That was like 3 years ago. That was the last time I've ever seen Derek Carr uncomfortable as a quarterback. And that's saying a lot. And, before this game, I actually picked the Raiders to win the game for a couple of reasons. They were very resilient on the road. Derek Carr has the best numbers in the fourth quarter. For that reason, I was relying heavily on Derek Carr's fourth quarter emergence. I knew this defense was going to come out and play the way they did against this Chiefs offense. Because, the Chiefs don't really have the most explosive offense. They did look more explosive last night, though, with a couple of big throws from Alex Smith to Tyreek Hill and Chris Conley. But after watching this game, I don't think this team's ready for prime time yet. I still think they're still in the learning process. If they happen to go to the playoffs as a 5th seed, I'm gonna have trouble. I'm gonna have trouble with this team going on a deep playoff run. If they were the 1 seed, then I can see maybe they can potentially become a Super Bowl team. I don't know if they're a Super Bowl team anymore because they just can't play in the cold weather. The defense can play. The running game is there, but it's the receivers and it's the quarterback. I just don't know if they're ready to play in those type of conditions, which you're going to have to play in January. Like you said, you got to play New England. You might have to go back to Kansas City, and then you might have to go back to Baltimore, or you might have to play Pittsburgh. They did play in Baltimore earlier this year, but that was in September. They played in Kansas City last night. New England, it can snow over there and pretty much in January. So as of right now, I don't know if I can. I don't know if I can pick the Raiders as a Super Bowl team right now. I'm just not that confident. I'm very confident in how their defense can play and how their running game can be productive. But it's the quarterbacks and the receivers there that really I have no confidence in now.
I agree with a lot of things you said, but I think the Raiders are still good. They played
good.
their worst game of the
They're good.
season
They're good.
On a short week on the road, underhanded, only lost by 8.
Yeah.
I mean, they could have won this game. I think they're still good. I still think New England's better. I still think Kansas City's better. I think if Pittsburgh continue their hot run, I think they're better. So I think the Raiders are probably looking at 3rd or 4th best team in the AFC right now. And when you're having to do that on the road, I agree with you, it just doesn't really bode well. I still think they're very capable. Anytime you have an offense that they do, you can make runs, and their defense is playing a lot better. So they still have chances, but just not necessarily sold on them. I still like Kansas City because of how they play. They're so conservative. They had 3 turnovers last night. They're not going to do that again the rest of the season. Their defense is very, very good. Although they did lose Derek Johnson last night, ruptured Achilles. He's out for the year, probably a lot of next year as well. Kind of feel bad for the guy. It's the second time he's done that now in the last few years. Getting a little older, above 30, one of their best defensive players having to replace him. You saw the effect it had. Latavius Murray gashed them right through the middle all night once he left in the second quarter. So they're going to have to overcome that injury, but they're still a very good defense, opportunistic defense, create a lot of turnovers, although they didn't do any last night. I still really like this Kansas City Chiefs team. Tyreek Hill's coming on. Travis Kelce, one of the best tight ends in the league. 4 straight games now over 100 yards. Had 101 last night on 5 catches. So they're still a good team, and I still like what they are doing in Kansas City.
Yeah, and, we talked about the Raiders a lot on the show this season. We don't talk about the Chiefs a lot. Like, I don't know, are the Chiefs like a Super Bowl contender here? Like, I do think they're built for the playoffs.
They're definitely built for the playoffs. Andy Reid, a good coach. Alex Smith, really conservative. I still got to put all my chips in with New England until someone can knock off Brady, Belichick. And then the unsung hero to me is kind of LeGarrette Blount, leads the league in rushing touchdowns with 15. And he's really a playoff back too, big and physical and will just wear you down all game. So until someone can knock New England from the ranks, I'm still going to go with them. But I think the Chiefs are probably my number 2 right now. I think if any team could do it, I still have to look at Pittsburgh with their offense. But then I'd go with Kansas City as well because they have a good balance and they just don't really make that many mistakes. Although they did last night, they just don't make really that many mistakes, and that's what wins games.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I might have to – I think the Chiefs might be I think they are the second best team in the AFC. We seen it last night. They're probably the most balanced team. They don't have a lot of turnovers. They create a lot of turnovers, and they're really built for the cold weather football. They run the ball, they play defense, and they got probably the best game manager of all time, and Alex Smith there.
Literally, the definition is written after Alex Smith.
Yeah.
Real quick, Jeremiah, before we take the break, I want to ask you something. Derek Carr plays his worst game of the season, 117, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Definitely hurts his MVP stock, but are you still putting him at the top?
He's definitely up in the top 2. I said this a couple weeks ago, or last week, I should say. I had Derek Carr and Ezekiel Elliott as the top 2 guys in MVP. Because if these 2 guys are not on their teams, I don't know how far those teams would have gone. So I do think he's still there, but I think this game's honestly going to hurt him. I think, honestly, if he would have tied this game and possibly go into overtime, then I would have said maybe he would have had his MVP moments. But he kind of missed out on that last night.
It definitely hurts him. I mean, but
I still think he's in consideration. He has to finish the year strong.
Exactly. That's where I was going to kind of go towards. You can't play all 16 games great.
Yeah, this isn't college football when you have to play 12 or 13 games like perfect.
You can't play every single game great. I think that definitely hurts him last night, but I don't knock him out of it. In my eyes, I would still vote for him as the MVP. I think second, probably Matthew Stafford of Detroit, everything he's doing. I think those are probably the top 2 guys in my eyes. But I think the last 3 games will kind of determine a lot. A couple of tough teams. San Diego's still a tough out. Denver's a good defense. They're going to be going on the road to Mile High. So, I mean, I'd still give it to Carr right now. But a lot of it depends on the last 3 weeks. It's going to go down to the wire, which I do like. Usually with the MVP, we see, it's this guy right now, and really that's what's going to happen. This year it's kind of up for grabs, which I do like. So, for me, I'd still vote him, though. Yeah,
and before we get to the break, I want to ask you, Kansas City has to play Denver. They have to actually they're playing at Arrowhead against Denver on Christmas night. It's a Sunday night game. That game might actually be for the division. And then Oakland goes to Mile High for Week 17. So, who do you think is going to win this division? This is so wide open right now.
I give the edge to Kansas City. I think both teams maybe lose one more game at most within their last 3. So I give the edge to Kansas City. They have the tiebreaker over Oakland, so they kind of have a half-game lead in that aspect. Denver, I'm not really sold on. Their offense is 27th in the league, so I just can't really trust their offense to withstand a game on the road against Kansas City, although they did go to overtime in the first meeting, so they were battling in there with Kansas City. I do give the edge to the Chiefs.
Yeah, I really do think Denver is the team that matches up well with the Chiefs. So I think Denver might actually come out on top in that Sunday night game. But after that, I do think the Chiefs can win against Tennessee their next game and the final game against San Diego. And it's going to be interesting to see. As of right now, I do think the Chiefs control their own destiny, and then the fact that the way how they play and how they're so balanced is a reason why I think they will win the division and end up with the 2 seed. But it's going to be exciting to see how this thing shakes out.
Definitely. And the last 3 weeks will determine a lot. A couple of division games, which are always kind of those throw-up games because you never know what to expect, although some teams are better than others. Division foes obviously know each other a lot better than other teams, so it'll be interesting to see. We'll take our first break, guys. After the break, we'll talk about the rest of the NFL week as well as preview a lot of the top games right here at the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
And welcome back to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. And we're going to get into some we're going to preview some games here, the upcoming matchups here of the week. This Sunday is week 14. Already week 14, man. Wow.
Yeah, it's the official start of the last quarter of the NFL season.
Where has the time gone? Where has the time gone?
It's gone by pretty quickly, I must say.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of intriguing matchups here. In the morning games, we got Pittsburgh, Buffalo, Denver, Tennessee, Washington, Philadelphia. A lot of playoff implications in these 3 games alone. What matchups catches your eye, Ben? What matches catches your eye?
This might kind of fly under the radar, but because of how important it is for the division, I really look at Houston and Indianapolis. Mm-hmm. Both teams at 6-6. You also have the Titans at 6-6. They'll be playing Denver, definitely a tough game. So this week could determine a lot of situations. A couple of divisional matchups still left to play. You have Houston at 6-6 and the Colts at 6-6. The Colts very easily should have won the first matchup. They kind of gave it away late in Sunday Night Football. Had a 14-point fourth quarter lead with a few minutes left, and game goes to overtime. Houston wins the game. The Colts coming off that huge Monday Night Football win against the disaster that is the New York Football Jets. Andrew Luck kind of came back to life, 4 touchdowns. I give the edge to the Colts. They should have won the first game. I can't trust Houston. I think, honestly, Brock Osweiler is, in my eyes, probably the worst starting quarterback in the NFL right now.
Really? Okay, out of all 32 teams, he is the worst?
In my eyes, yes.
Okay.
And I realize we have some rookies, like Bryce Petty is starting for the Jets.
I'm not counting them because they haven't played the whole year.
Exactly. And for 2, I realize Bryce Petty, we haven't really seen any reason to be hopeful, but there's still a little bit of a chance. You know what I mean? He hasn't played enough to really see if there's a chance. With Osweiler, we know that he's just not really cut out to be a starting quarterback.
So he is the worst starting quarterback in the league.
I would say yes.
I think Blake Bortles would like to have a word with you.
I would take Blake Bortles over Osweiler.
I wouldn't take any of them.
Well, I mean, no. I wouldn't either. But if you had to pick one to win one game, you have Osweiler or Bortles. I would take Bortles.
Okay, that's a fair point.
I just can't trust Osweiler.
I would not take either of them.
Well, I mean, like I said, I wouldn't either. But, I mean, the Texans have the pieces. Lamar Miller, a really good running back. They have an elite wide receiver in DeAndre Hopkins, a complimentary guy in Will Fuller, a solid defense. So, I mean, there's pieces there. I think the quarterback's the one thing holding them back.
Which was something that was holding them back last year, too. And it seems like it's still holding them back. But, yeah, getting back to this matchup, I do think Indianapolis is going to be the winner in this game. I actually think they're actually going to come out on top of the division. I realistically think they're going to finish 10-6.
Wow, okay.
And hosting a playoff game. Tennessee, though, you can't forget about them. They're also 6-6 as well. And Tennessee, they're playing against a really tough team. I think Marcus Mariota is probably going to have his tough. He's going to have a tough matchup here. That offense is going to have a tough match against Denver. Realistically, I can possibly see Denver win this game because they also are still fighting for a playoff spot themselves, and they're in a tougher division. So I'm going to have to go with Denver on the road against Tennessee, against a young Tennessee squad. Pittsburgh and Buffalo, they were leading the Oakland Raiders at the Coliseum last Sunday. They were leading 24-9, and then all of a sudden it was gone. They haven't scored after that. And they're playing at home. They're playing at the Ralph against a really tough Pittsburgh team who are also fighting for a division title. This is probably, honestly, for the Buffalo Bills, they do have a good defense. They have a really great running game. But the fact that Pittsburgh has a better quarterback, I'm going to have to go to the edge with Pittsburgh. I just think they're flat out the better team, the more talented team, in my eyes. And as for Washington and Philadelphia, I'm going to have to give that game to Washington. They're still fighting for a playoff spot as well. I just don't know what happened to this Philadelphia team. They just don't look like the same team they were earlier in the year. And, the receivers, they just don't know how to catch.
I'll give the edge to Pittsburgh as well. Better team, playing better. I'll give the edge to the Broncos, although I do like the Titans coming off of a bye week at home.
I do as well.
I do like that, but I think the offense will struggle. Mariota will have a tough game. DeMarco Murray's been great all year long, but I think he'll have a tough game against a tough Denver defense. Trevor Siemian looks like he'll be playing this weekend, so that's a huge advantage. Much better player than Paxton Lynch right now. So I'll give the edge to Denver in a close, low-scoring game. And you know what? I'll take the Eagles. The Eagles at home are a much better team than they are on the road. Their one home loss a couple weeks back on Monday Night Football to Green Bay. The Redskins are kind of slumping a little bit, a couple of losses in a row now. So I'll give the edge to the Eagles in a close game. I just like their defense. Don't have much faith in their offense, as you mentioned, but the Redskins' defense not really much of a powerhouse either. So I'll take the Eagles at home. They're a good team at home.
Yeah, no, they are, but I'm gonna have to give the edge to Washington's offense here. They have so many weapons on that team. So against a young Philadelphia defense, and I know they're tough, but I'm going to have to give the edge to Washington. I just think they're more talented on that side of the ball than they are in Philly.
I think they are too. I absolutely love Kirk Cousins. I think he's one of the more underrated quarterbacks in the league, although he's getting some more press and getting a lot better. Jeremiah, is this the week the Browns finally get off the schneid?
I think it is. I do.
Oh, okay.
I really think it is. I've never picked the Browns to win a game. I'm the only one. I think I'm going to pick them this week.
Word of advice: don't do it.
I think I am, and I kept saying it. I kept looking forward to this matchup for the past month or past in November. I said, guys, I do think Cleveland has a chance to get the first wins against Cincinnati. I think it's going to happen. You got RG3 going to make his first start since week 1.
They do have a chance. I will give you.
And Cincinnati, they're just not.
Give you that.
They're not. Well, I know they had a big win against Philadelphia last week, but Cincinnati, they're too inconsistent.
They're down AJ Green. They're down Giovanni Bernard. You mentioned RG3 back could be kind of interesting. I think he probably gives them their best chance to win, which is kind of scary to say. You realize the last quarterback to win a game for the Browns was Johnny Football.
Yes, I do that. You know who is the team that he beat?
Was it the Bengals?
No, it was the 49ers.
Oh, well,
that was a lot.
Sorry, friend, but.
The Niners would make Johnny Manziel look like an NFL quarterback. But anyways, getting back to this Cleveland Browns and Cincinnati game, I do think this is the week Cleveland gets off the schneid here.
I'm not going to go that far. I took them week 1 and I suffered the consequences. So.
Well, that's different. You took them week 1. I'm taking them week 14. And I do think RG3, he's gonna elevate this offense. I think it's gonna do really well for Corey Coleman. Terrell Pryor, he's pretty good. Whoever is at quarterback, And, Isaiah Correll, I do think he's going to have more opportunities running the ball because RG3 does present opportunities to run himself. He brings a whole nother element to his offense. But with that being said, it is still Cleveland. And this is a divisional game. So that's why I think this game is going to be so hard fought between these two teams. And this is at Cleveland. So this is why I'm going to give the edge to the Browns here. I do think the Browns are going to win this game in a shootout. I think it's going to be a really entertaining game. I want it to be an entertaining game.
I think if the Browns don't win this week, they're not going to win all season. They have the Bills, which are a pretty good team, Chargers, which are up and down, and then the Steelers, who are still battling for a division crown.
I would say
so
this.
If they don't win this week, I think they don't have a chance to win.
I would say this. If they don't win this week, I'm going to give them a chance to beat these Chargers on Christmas Eve. It was this game and that game. I was going to give them 2 chances to win. After that, I'm not going to give them any chance.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to wait and see. Obviously, we'll be back on Monday to talk about it, but a couple other games I want to talk about is in the afternoon and then the Sunday night game. The Seattle Seahawks go to Lambeau Field to take on the Green Bay Packers at 6-6. A couple of interesting storylines here. Green Bay now with Christine Michael, formerly of Seattle before they cut him earlier this year, just a few weeks ago actually. So interesting, maybe he can give them a little bit of insight on Russell Wilson and the offense and a little bit of the defense. Have to see how Seattle can cope without Earl Thomas with the broken leg out for the season. In my eyes, he's kind of the heart and soul of their defense and definitely their best defensive player on a stacked defense. And Green Bay kind of playing a little better now. 2 games winning streak in a row now. The defense is getting a little healthier. You have back Demarius Randall, Quentin Rollins, Clay Matthews is getting healthier, among others. So I think Green Bay's a little better, but I think they're just kind of in that situation where it's a little, too late. A couple games back from Detroit. I'll take Seattle on the road. A big win last week against Carolina, 40-7. I think they'll maybe give up a little opportunities because Earl Thomas is not there. Have to replace him is tough. But Russell Wilson's getting healthier. Thomas Rawls had a huge game last week. I think he'll have some success against Green Bay. And I'll take Seattle on the road at Lambeau.
Yeah, and I'm going to take Seattle on the road as well. Green Bay, they got out to a really slow start. I think it's a little too late now for them to make a playoff run. This game is at Lambeau, so that is an advantage for them. It is December. This offense has been playing better, but this team still can't run the football. They still can't. Ty Montgomery is probably their best running back, and that's saying a lot.
He's a wide receiver.
He's a receiver, so they can't get any production from the running back spot, and that kind of really scares me. They're a team that should be able to run the ball in cold weather. They can't do it. They have to have Aaron Rodgers throw 50 times a game. There's just no creativity in this offense at all, and I know they have probably one of the best quarterbacks in the league. But there's no creativity. You know what they're going to do. They're really predictable. Seattle, on the other hand, they got Russell Wilson. He's getting healthy. Jimmy Graham has been really consistent all year. But Tyler Lockett had a really great game last week against Carolina. He looks like he's getting more involved in the offense now. So I think he adds an extra element to this Seattle offense. I do think he's going to add that little deep threat. Doug Baldwin always has that connection late in games with Wilson. So just for that, I think I might give the edge to Seattle. They're just a better team in my opinion, more talent. They actually know how to run the ball. They play defense, and they play really good defense without Earl Thomas in the second half. After Cam Newton had that huge touchdown pass in the second quarter, Seattle was able to bounce back, and that was the only score they allowed the whole entire game. So I do think Seattle's the type of team that they have the next man up mentality, and I do think, their mentality and the way that they play is. I'm gonna have to give the edge to Seattle there.
They might have that next man up mentality, but to replace Earl Thomas is going to be extremely, extremely tough. We'll have to wait and see how they do. Green Bay, I mean, they're kind of in. If there's one thing that I give them credit for, they're kind of in a playoff situation already. They need help. Detroit with a 2-game lead. They do play them one more time before the end of the season.
Yeah, they also need Tampa Bay to lose.
But they're kind of in playoff mode already, you know what I mean? So, it'll be interesting to see, but I'll take Seattle. And then Sunday night, we have the 11-1 Dallas Cowboys going to MetLife Stadium to take on the one team that has beat them this year, and that is the 8-4 New York Giants. Obviously, Cowboys 11 wins in a row since week 1 when the Giants beat them at Jerry World. Now, the reverse side at MetLife Stadium. I'll take the Cowboys, man. I just have more faith in them. The Giants, I mean, we talked about how Green Bay can't run the ball, but I think the Giants probably can't run the ball
don't even know
nearly as good as Green Bay can, honestly, which is kind of scary. But
the Giants don't even know what running the ball is. I want to take the Giants in this game. I want to. I can't do it. The Cowboys have been so good. They've been so consistent. And they just don't make a lot of turnovers. And for that reason alone, I do think that the Cowboys are going to win. I'm looking for reasons to not pick them, but all I can figure out is reasons to pick them. And just for that, the reasons that I have reasons to pick them instead of reasons to not pick them, like there's like no reasons that why I shouldn't pick them. And for that, I'll have to pick the Cowboys to win the game. There's so many reasons why I shouldn't pick the Giants to win the game.
Honestly, I think we're looking at a shootout, to be honest.
Me too.
I think that Dallas, obviously their offense with Dak and Ezekiel Elliott are very successful. They're going to put up points. But the Giants, I think, could get into like that, like I said, that shootout slugfest where Eli Manning's just chucking it all over the yard. I expect Odell Beckham to have a huge game. I'd say over 100 yards and a score. I think Eli will probably throw for 3 touchdowns. But I got to go with the Cowboys, like you said. I just have more faith in them. I think they can make 1 more play or 2 more plays more than the Giants can to just squeak it out late. But I think we're looking towards a shootout as long as the weather stays like it should. It looks like it's not going to be raining or anything, so I think that bodes well. Not necessarily an ugly game. Running game for Dallas is going to be successful. It really is every single week, as you know. So, I mean, I'll take Dallas. I just, like you said, the Giants, I like them going into the season, but I just can't bet against Dallas. They've won 11 in a row. What makes you think they're going to get stopped now? I can't go against them, man.
And I hope Odell Beckham. I think Odell Beckham's going to get 150 and a score.
You're going to go 150? Okay, I have 100.
I have him on my fantasy team.
Well, so. You're hoping he does that too. But, yeah, I mean, Odell Beckham's a great player. I'm not his biggest fan. I think he kind of does a little too much outside of the field, which kind of bothers me.
And then we talked about that yesterday as well.
Yeah, you have like the kicking net where he's like in love with it and marrying it, and then his antics where, Stevie Wonder could see all the calls I don't get and all this. I mean, it's like, just play football, man. Like, stop worrying about the outside aspects.
We actually talked about Odell Beckham yesterday and his antics, and, Alex and I said that we don't really like the fact that he's doing all this off the field, and it's really showed on the field. I kind of drew the comparison of Odell Beckham to Terrell Owens. You know how Terrell Owens was when he was with the 49ers, the Eagles and Cowboys, how he had all those antics off the field and all that. He was one of those me guys. But Terrell Owens did put up good numbers, even though despite of that, Odell Beckham's he's really too inconsistent, in my opinion.
I mean, he's putting up great numbers, over 1,000 yards and 8 scores right now, just with 4 games left in the season. So he easily could be looking at 1,300, 1,400 yards. But I think we'll have a big game. But I think Dallas just pulls it out late. I can't bet against the Giants, man. Or, I mean, the Cowboys, man. I just can't do it. I love the Giants going into the season. I thought they'd win the division. But they're just not the team I thought they would be. Their defense hasn't not been as good as I thought they would be. The running game I knew was not there, but Eli Manning, he's either pretty good or he's pretty bad. Like you saw last week against Pittsburgh, the interception right before the half in the end zone just literally took any chance they had to win the game out from under them. Just it's like mistakes he shouldn't be making now. He is making. I don't know, man. I just can't bet against Dallas for those reasons. But we'll have to wait and see. We will be back on Monday to recap the NFL week that was, as well as preview the Monday night matchup. It was a pretty good matchup. The 7-5 Baltimore Ravens against the 10-2 New England Patriots. Seems like the Ravens and Patriots always have great games, especially in the playoffs when they have been meeting the last few years. We'll talk about that on Monday as well as recap this week. But after the break, we'll be talking about college football. We have the Heisman Trophy presentation tomorrow. Talk about the finalists and predict who we think is going to win. As well as last night, we had the award ceremony in college football. So we had best tight end, running back, receiver, defensive player, defensive back, player, coach, etc. We'll be breaking all that down and more right after the break at the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
Want to find out what movies to go see? Then check out the GSMC Movie Podcast. It's your ticket to the latest movies, whether it's a new blockbuster event, romantic, comedy, or action flick. This show has got it all covered. They talk some what to go see now, don't bother, what's hot on Netflix, and everything in between. That's gsmcpodcast.com/movie-podcast. When it's all about the movies, it has to be this new show. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
So earlier this week, we all thought that Lane Kiffin was going to be the new head coach at Houston. Made sense. Obviously, he had some struggles with USC, Tennessee, Oakland Raiders in the NFL, but he wants to be a head coach again, and his shot will come. We all thought it was going to be with Houston. We reported a couple of days ago he was set to be their head coach, but, I mean, other than that, we didn't really get any updates. We never saw a press conference. We never saw an official wording, nothing.
Nothing at all.
Well, now it's not the case that he's the head coach.
The Houston Cougars actually went with the internal hire. The Cougars hired offensive coordinator Major Applewhite as their new coach. It was announced this morning on Friday. And, Applewhite is set to receive a 5-year contract. So, and then University is going to have a press conference today at 2 p.m. Eastern, which is 11 a.m. our time here in Pacific. I'm not surprised by the hire. They were looking for a big name. Well, I didn't say they were, but it wasn't surprising that they were looking for a big name to take over Tom Herman, because Tom Herman was a really great coach the past few years at Houston. He really elevated them to national status. And we talked about how they can be a potential playoff contender before the season. But as for Lane Kiffin, I really do think he's really a strong candidate now for the USF job in South Florida after, Taggart went to Oregon. But as for this hire for Houston, I really do like it, because he is on the team now. He's on the coaching staff now. He's going to take over immediately for the bowl game. For that reason, he knows the players. He knows the scheme that they currently run. For that reason, I do like it. It's really underrated. But I would have liked it better if they went for a big name hire. I think Lane Kiffin actually really deserves a head coaching job. He's done great things with the Alabama offense. He's really, with 3 different types of quarterbacks the past 3 seasons, his team has put up good numbers. His offense has put up good numbers. For that reason, I do think he's a really great offensive mind and really deserves a coaching job, but it's not going to come with Houston. I really think there's going to be a lot of pressure on Kiffin if we would have got that job. See, now Major Applewhite, he knows the system. He knows the team. He knows the university. He's been there for I'm not sure how long, but he knows this team. He knows how they are. He knows how they play. He knows the system, and for that reason, I do like it. I'm not going to bash this at all, but I actually would have liked it better if they went after a big name hire.
I'm just kind of confused by all this. I'm not really sure of a couple of things. Number one, when I think it was Wednesday. I don't know. It was yesterday. Actually, yesterday we saw that Lane Kiffin was set to be the head coach for Houston. And I read this, and I'm kind of like scratching my head like, wait, what? Like, Lane Kiffin's going to leave Alabama, where he's already won a national championship, the favorite to win it again this year. He's going to leave Alabama to go to Houston? I realize there's not many head coaching jobs open. I get that. But it's like, you're going to leave a powerhouse like that. Houston's been good the last couple of years, but they're not Alabama. They're not in a top 5 conference. They're not nearly what Alabama is. Also a different style. You have Lane Kiffin likes to run a pro style with Alabama. You're looking at the spread with Houston. So it's really different. I was kind of like, man, this doesn't really make much sense. Like, I know he wants to be a head coach and he will get one eventually. He deserves one again, at least another shot. But I was like, this kind of like confuses me a little bit. But I was like, okay, like it is what it is. And now you come back and you see like, well, scratch that. Lane Kiffin's not the head coach, and I'm like, well, okay, like what happened then? Like what went wrong? Because yesterday, oh, he's our head coach. Like, great, everyone's reporting it. It's going to happen. And then it's like, well, not so much, guys. Like I wonder, like, what really happened?
Yeah, that's the thing. We will never know what really happened internally. Right. And Houston is a really great coaching job, and I know they're not in a Power 5 conference, but look at the past coaches that come from that school. Art Briles, despite what he has done at Baylor in the past couple of years, his career in Houston was really good. It was a launching pad for him before he went to Baylor, and after that is a different story in itself, what he did there. But after that, Kevin Sumlin, before leaving for Texas A&M, went 35-17 in 3 years. So he has success there. Tom Herman, probably the best coach in the last 10 years there, went 22-4. So I think that was the reason why I think this is a good coaching job for Lane Kiffin to get back to. I didn't think he was going to be there for 10 years. I do think this was going to be the job before the other job. So I think this is going to serve as a position that was going to get him hired at a bigger Power 5 conference. And for that reason, I do liked it. I like that for that reason because we've seen Lane Kiffin coach big-time programs. We've seen him at USC. We know how that turned out. We've seen him at Tennessee. We know how that turned out. I do think Houston was the perfect spot for him to land as of now because I really think he had a chance to be successful with the team they have now. And, there's a lot of talent there in Texas as well. So I do think it was going to be a launching pad for Lane Kiffin to get an even better job. That's the reason why I wanted Lane Kiffin to go back there, but it remains to be seen how Applewhite's going to do. I actually think he's going to do really well since he has been there for the past couple of seasons.
I mean, we'll have to wait and see. Obviously, Kiffin will just continue to do what he's doing at Alabama. I'm sure he'll probably wait until next year, see what coaching jobs open. Possibly if Notre Dame and Brian Kelly have another bad year, you could have a coach opening there. There's a lot of other situations that could open up. I don't really know, but I was kind of confused. It makes a lot of sense what you're saying because if he would have gone to Houston, he would have been not necessarily in the limelight as much as some of these other jobs, so he can kind of not fly under the radar, but not get as much coverage because he's had his issues. We all know that. So if he can use Houston as like a stepping stone and be okay there, then he can maybe propel to an elite coaching job. That's not going to be the case, so we'll have to wait and see, but it was just kind of weird, you know what I mean? It's like the whole situation, like, wait, what? Now he's not the coach? Like, what's going on here, you know? Yeah. But anyway, so we'll talk about now. We have the 2016 College Football Awards Show. It happened last night. Some of the big winners are a lot of the players you would expect. Quarterback Lamar Jackson of Louisville wins the Maxwell Award, which is for the Player of the Year award. He also won the Walter Camp Award, which is a similar award. Then you have Davey O'Brien Award winner. That's the best quarterback. This is what's so confusing to me. You have Deshaun Watson winning it from Clemson. Another quarterback. So you have a quarterback winning the Maxwell Award for the best player, and not that same guy winning the best quarterback. It's like this just makes no sense to me, man. Like these awards are just so confusing to me, and I just really don't like them. You know how I feel about the Heisman already. And then another situation I bring up, the Chuck Bednarik Award, the Defensive Player of the Year Award, goes to defensive lineman Jonathan Allen of Alabama. Probably a guy who deserves it. Had a fantastic year, going to be a top draft pick. But yet you have the Heisman finalist of Jabril Peppers from Michigan. So how can you have the lone defensive player in the Heisman be Jabril Peppers and have him not win the Best Defensive Player of the Year award? It just makes no sense to me.
And you know what else doesn't make sense is how is Adoree Jackson going to win the Jim Thorpe Award, which is for Outstanding Defensive Back, and Jabril Peppers didn't win it? And
it should have gone to Jackson.
Exactly. I think it should have gone to Adoree Jackson, and Adoree Jackson didn't even get Heisman consideration, which was absurd in my eyes. You got two players from Oklahoma who had great years, by the way. Nothing against them. I just think there's guys that had better years and more deserving. But yeah, getting back to your confusion here with the Maxwell and Dave O'Brien Award, yeah, it is kind of weird how they work these out.
I just hate these. I hate these awards.
I really do think Lamar Jackson very deserving of the Maxwell Award. I do think he was the most outstanding college player here. But you can make a case that maybe Deshaun Watson was a better pure quarterback.
So do you think that's why they're sort of leaning at?
I think maybe. I think that's why they're leaning at. And Deshaun Watson had a great year as well, and his team is in the playoffs. But as overall as outstanding player, Lamar Jackson just really caught the national spotlight. He caught college football world by storm. he pretty much made Louisville relevant. So I think maybe the fact that how he's played, and he pretty much has some wow plays. He made us say wow a couple of times. I don't remember the last time Deshaun Watson made us say wow. So maybe that's the reason why Lamar Jackson has the Maxwell Award instead of the Davey O'Brien Award. But other than that, I can't make another case for it.
That's the only thing is, like, he's more of a pure quarterback, so that's why they lean that way. But it's just so confusing to me. I'm not a fan of these awards. They just don't make any real sense to me. You know what I mean? But, I mean, some of the other notable rewards, the Doak Walker Award goes to Deontay Foreman of Texas, ran for over 2,000 yards. He's already declared for the draft, so he'll probably be a first or second rounder, depending on how teams go that way. You had what's his name here? Where is he at? He wins the Fred Biletnikoff Award as the best.
D.D. Westbrook.
Yes, D.D. Westbrook, the Fred Biletnikoff Award as the best wide receiver from Oklahoma. He's also a Heisman finalist. I mean, these awards, I know they mean a lot, and they're obviously warrant for most people, but they're just so confusing to me, especially with Peppers and everything. It's like, I think he's only a Heisman finalist because of how the media sort of covers him and how he's a lot different of a player than we've seen within the last decade and a half, because he plays both sides of the ball. He returns punts sometimes, plays linebacker, plays safety, plays running back. So it's kind of like, because of his versatility, he's in there. He's not a pure player, more of an athlete. So I get that, but at the end of the day, he's a defensive player primarily, and it's just kind of like, I don't really get it, man. You know,
yeah,
it's just so.
Yeah, the Heisman committee they're not sold on pure defensive players. And, you know, Jonathan Allen probably had the best year of any defensive player in the nation. That's all I'm going to say about that. But there's two awards that I actually do want to talk about that I actually really do agree with. The Home Depot Award for Coach of the Year went to Mike McIntyre of Colorado. Colorado came out of nowhere. They were in the Pac-12 championship. They had a phenomenal year. And that is very deserving there in McIntyre. And I think the moment of the night was the Disney Spirit Award, which goes for most inspirational player or team. And that went to James Conner of Pittsburgh, the running back who was battling cancer last year. Alex and I covered him heavily earlier in the year. And, you know, he teared up at his speech, you know. And it was presented by, I forgot the two ESPN's personalities that presented the award. But he was, you know, he's came a long way, you know, when they had a little video package that was very, you know, heartfelt, so to speak. And, you know, it went to a phenomenal player, that award. He had a really great year, actually, for the Pitt Panthers. And I do see him, you know, as far as NFL and all that wise, I don't know what type of player he's going to be. That remains to be seen. But I do think that was probably my favorite moment of the night right there.
It's definitely great to see that a guy who's overcome a lot of adversity getting honored. I think of like Isaiah Austin in the NBA finally getting cleared to play just early as last week. Battled basically, I'm not exactly what it's called, but battling basically eyesight problems, and now he's finally cleared to play, which is great. You know, you mentioned Connor last night over battling cancer, which is awesome. I thought Mike McIntyre, head coach of Colorado, as you mentioned, coach of the year, very deserving. You know, 10-3 record, has him 10th in the rankings right now before the bowl game. So definitely a great year. A team that really flew under the radar. No one expected to be there, and a team that was right there at the end. Could they have maybe won the Pac-12? Would have had a strong case to be in the playoff. Obviously not the case, but
that would have been a headache.
I mean, I would have loved that, talking about it. But
yeah,
anyways,
no, I would have too, but it would have been a headache to figure it out.
Anyways, now we'll look at the Heisman Trophy. We do have 5 finalists. We have Lamar Jackson, the winner of the Maxwell Award. Most often, the winner of the Maxwell Award does win the Heisman. I mean, I said this a few weeks ago. You can basically write his name on the Heisman Trophy right now, but struggled down the stretch, lost to Houston, lost to Kentucky. Didn't really play too well his last 3 games. So there is some chances. You also look at the other finalists are Deshaun Watson, quarterback from Clemson, Jabril Peppers, all-around player of Michigan. And then you have the 2 Oklahoma guys. You have quarterback Baker Mayfield and wide receiver D.D. Westbrook. Are you in agreement with me? Jackson wins this?
Yeah, I want to make a case for other players why they should. But I come out with reasons why Jackson will win it.
The only one is, in my eyes, is Watson. He's the only one that has a strong case.
Me too. I think it's between Lamar Jackson and Deshaun Watson. Only two legit candidates I think that actually have a shot here. But, Jackson, when you look at his numbers on paper and you compare both of these two players on paper, Jackson's numbers blow Watson's numbers out of the water. But Watson had a better year. His team's in the playoffs.
Right, but
Jackson was basically the best overall player in college football. In my opinion, I think he was the most exciting. He had lots of Heisman moments. And he did struggle with a couple of games. That's the only problem I have with Lamar Jackson winning this game. He struggled against teams that he shouldn't have struggled against.
Definitely.
Especially Houston. I think Houston is actually, even when they weren't ranked when they play against Louisville, they're still a tough team in defense. And I understand that. But when you are the best offense and you're the best quarterback, you should happen to perform no matter what in college football. And I know that puts a little too much pressure on, players and all that. But that's just the way it is. You have to perform week in and week out, in the college game. Lamar Jackson, he's inconsistent at times, but he does have the good numbers. And for his numbers alone is the reason why I think he's going to win it. I can't make an argument why he's not going to win it.
Exactly. I can't either. And then for me, though, the one lasting impression I have is because it is between Jackson and Watson in my eyes. You look at when they played each other. Lamar Jackson outplayed Deshaun Watson, although, obviously they're not playing against each other, but they're on the field, quarterbacks. Lamar Jackson outplayed Deshaun Watson on the road in prime time. Obviously, they did not win the game, but he outplayed him. So you have the two comparisons. It's like, they actually played each other. This guy did a lot better. So I give the edge to Jackson, but really, to me, this is a really down year for the Heisman Trophy. No real standout performers. Jackson's going to kind of win it by default in my eyes because no one else was really capable of challenging. I think if you put Jackson in the field of last year with McCaffrey and Derrick Henry, I think Jackson doesn't stand a chance of winning it. You know what I mean? But this year, no one really stepped up in college football to prove that they deserve the Heisman. And I think Jackson, although his team didn't necessarily finish as well as some of the others, he's going to win it by default because no one else, like I said, really turned up.
Yeah, and getting to the Heisman Award is basically the equivalent of the MVP. And if Lamar Jackson is not on this Louisville team, I don't know how they would have done this year. I think Lamar Jackson is the reason why Louisville was so successful this year.
He was. He was literally 99.9% of their offense. I'm not being literal.
99.9%.
He was their offense. He did it all. Over 30 touchdowns passing, over 20 touchdowns rushing, 1,500 yards rushing, 3,000, almost 400 yards passing. The guy did it all. He was there. He was the guy in college football, and no one else gave a standout performance, and he's going to win it. If he does not win it for some reason, I think there's like a crime against humanity. That would give me even more of a reason to hate these college awards than I already do, but I don't think that'll be the case.
I just love your hatred of college awards.
I think
funny.
They're silly.
It's funny.
How can a quarterback win the Maxwell Award for the best player but not win the best quarterback? And how can a guy who's not a Heisman finalist win the Defensive Player of the Year award when a defensive player is nominated for the Heisman? It's just kind of silly to me.
I think it's because they rate these. They judge these awards a lot differently. That's the only case I can make.
You know what I mean? Like I think the only comparison you can maybe make is in the NFL. You have the MVP and you have the Offensive Player of the Year. It's never the same guy, and it's usually the same position or something. So I guess you can compare that, but it's like, man, these awards just don't make much sense to me. And you have 5 Heisman finalists. Why 5?
It was 3 last year.
It's been 3 for so many years. It's really, you and I are in agreement, it's down to 2 guys.
Mm-hmm.
No one else really has a chance. So it's like, why are they obviously they're going to get recognition for the years they had, but it's like, why are they kind of on that center stage with them as well when everybody in the whole building knows that they don't even have a chance?
I like how you say everyone in the whole building knows. What do they do?
And they're probably themselves included.
The problem that I have with the Heisman this year, there is a standout candidate that's not even nominated. There's actually 2 of them. In my eyes, I do think it should have been Lamar Jackson, Deshaun Watson, Jabril Peppers, Adoree Jackson, and Jake Browning. The fact that Jake Browning is not on this list is baffling.
I mean, I guess he means a lot to Washington.
It is absurd that Jake Browning's not on this list.
To me, his stats don't really stand out with some of the other quarterbacks.
He had over 48 passing touchdowns. Or no, not over 48, but over 40. Over 40.
I get. Trust me, I get it. But
without Jake Browning, that team is not in the playoffs. That team is not on there.
I mean, still, to me, they're still a run-first team. Myles Gaskin, a great year.
No, Myles Gaskin was phenomenal this year.
So I get it. Trust me, but it's Jackson or nobody. I mean, does it really matter? Like,
no, I just want to get that out there.
Definitely, yeah. There's snubs. I think Jonathan Allen's a huge snub. Adoree Jackson, not just a good corner, but a good return man as well. Browning has a case. So
yeah, Jonathan Allen had no chance of getting nominated, which is a shame. He had probably the best year of any defensive player.
He did, but I mean, it's not a sexy position. A defensive lineman. He doesn't have the sort of versatility of Peppers where he's playing all over the field. So I get it. I get it, but I just don't necessarily have to agree with it, But anyways, that's going to conclude this episode of the show. Jeremiah and I will be signing off. We'll be back on Monday to talk about the NFL, talk about the Heisman Trophy, other great news within football. Hope you have a great weekend. Hope you enjoy a lot of the games. Watch the Heisman, although I'm not a big fan. Jeremiah, obviously, I know you will be, but
we'll see, maybe.
But anyways,
I already know who's going to win. Why do I got to watch it?
I mean, we've felt that way for seems like every year now.
Yeah.
But anyways, guys, we are signing off. Hope you have a great weekend. Hope you enjoyed the show. Back on Monday with more football news at the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. Goodbye.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.